A last-minute deal enables thousands of stranded Palestinian pilgrims to cross into Gaza. Was the crisis politically motivated, and what kind of impact is it going to have on the controversial issue of the crossings? This is Inside Story. Hello, I am Hashim Al-Barra. Palestinian pilgrims have at last been allowed to return home. Thousands gathered at the Palestinian side of Rafah to welcome more than 2,000 Hajis who spent days in temporary camps in Egypt after they were told Israel opposed to their entering Gaza via Rafah crossing and decided that they had to enter through Kerem Shalom, a crossing point controlled by the Israelis. A decision rejected by the pilgrims who fear that Israelis might arrest some of them. 3 elderly women have died while waiting to be allowed to go. The pilgrims accused Egypt of bowing to Israeli pressures by not allowing them to go through Rafah, a claim rejected by the Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, who said that the opening of the Rafah crossing requires special arrangements by different parties.
The Rafah crossing, for your information, in order to have that opened, there must be present an Egyptian representative, a European one, and one from the Palestinian Authority. The European representative refuses to be present. If we allow the pilgrims to cross randomly without proper arrangement, we will be flooded with accusations which can be easily fabricated. We are dealing with the situation in a fashion to overcome all such obstacles. We do not wish anybody to force us into traps. We wish to solve the problem. The Palestinians are our brothers. However, idle talk and media reports on satellite television will not be productive with us. We are acting in order to serve the national interest.
Joining us to discuss the latest developments at the Rafah crossing are our guests in Prague, Yana Hibashkova, the chairwoman of the European Parliament Delegation for Relations with Israel. In Cairo, Ambassador Ahmed Abul Khair, member of the Egyptian Council for Foreign Relations. In London, Azzam Tamimi, director of the Institute of Islamic Political Thought. Welcome, gentlemen. Let me first start by asking Mr. Ahmed Abul Khair. Mr. Ahmed Abul Khair, do you think that allowing the pilgrims to enter Gaza was the result of an agreement between the Israelis, the Egyptians and the EU?
Well, I think that nobody from the pilgrims will enter Gaza without the agreement of the 3 parties.
It's a very delicate situation. The crossing point was closed. It was shut down months ago. The EU have left as a third party. The PA doesn't recognize Hamas. We know that it was a very difficult situation, but they were allowed to go perform Hajj. Suddenly, once they are back, they were told, no way, you should have to go through Kerem Shalom. We've heard them saying that the Egyptians have done nothing to help us. How do you comment on that?
Well, Egypt, in fact, is in a very critical situation. First, there is a commitment by Egypt emanating from the agreement or the arrangements on the borders of September 2005 from one part, and that the Egypt doesn't want to be involved in the problems and differences between Palestinian Authority and the Hamas. And from other part, Egypt has been criticized by the Israelis recently because it allowed the pilgrims to pass from the Rafah crossing to go to Saudi Arabia for Hajj. And in the same time, Egypt feels that it is responsible and credible enough to protect Palestinian interests and in front of the Arab and Islamic world.
So, Dr. Azzam Tamimi. Azzam, we've heard the Egyptians saying we had nothing to do with the crisis. It was a nightmare for all the Palestinians. Don't you think that there are some elements of factional rivalries between Hamas and Fatah, represented by the PA, which led to this situation?
Well, all rivalries aside, I think the Egyptians are, the Egyptians have primary responsibility for what has happened, because in the first place they allowed the pilgrims out, and if you allow them out without any conditions, you have the responsibility to allow them back. I think the Egyptian government has behaved in a very foolish manner. They were probably ill-advised as to how to do it. Probably they came under pressure. I'm in no doubt that there was Israeli pressure, probably American pressure, and most importantly, pressure from Ramallah, because the authority in Ramallah did not want the pilgrims to come back through the Rafah crossing. Now the Egyptians have shot themselves in the foot. They insisted for 5 days that they could not allow the pilgrims back. Now the pilgrims are back.
Hipashkova, how was the crisis seen from an EU perspective?
First of all, I think that the whole situation is really complex. I would not speak about Israeli, US or Ramallah pressure. We should know that this area is since millenniums, since thousands of years, very difficult area. And definitely what EU is calling for, and whole autumn or since 2007 was calling for, was also Egyptian responsibility, because no one in the world, including Gaza's population, can say that Egypt has no take part there. Egypt is a part of problem and Egypt should be part of solution. I don't think that EU could have done more than it's doing right now, even though it's responsible still for Rafah crossing border. Nevertheless, I as well think that the real prime responsibility stays and lies with Palestinians.
Definitely people would understand your position, because at the same time you stand for the EU Commission for Friendship with Israel. Let me ask Mr. Abul Khair. Definitely you've heard both of them saying that Egypt is to blame for its role there. The Egyptians have been saying we are caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Don't you think that the Egyptians definitely have to review the way they deal with the Palestinians the moment they cross the border?
Yes, well, I can agree that Egypt is to be blamed. Egypt has responsibility, and Egypt allowed them to cross Rafah crossing in their way to Saudi Arabia. And Egypt should allow them back, even there will be a responsibility in that. I think that Egypt is responsible to allow them back via Rafah crossing, and bear the responsibility if there will be any, and to have its picture in the Arab and Islamic world as it was before.
It was an affair with different parties, Mr. Azam al-Tamimi. You have the Palestinian, Hamas, you have the PA, you have the Egyptians, the EU, the Americans. Every party was voicing its own concern about what happened. The Israelis saying we are concerned about some high members of Hamas and the Islamic Jihad going to Hajj. They were saying that there was smuggling of cash and weapons, and that the Egyptians historically have done nothing to stop that. Don't you think this is highlighting the very complexity of the crossing points in the area?
Well, there is really nothing complex about it. You see, we have a world community that is hypocritical, that is shamelessly imposing sanctions on this helpless population in the Gaza Strip. The European Union is so cowardly that it follows instructions from Israel and the United States of America. Israel is interested in making the Palestinians suffer more and more, giving them really nothing in exchange. And they have a lackey authority in Ramallah that is collaborating with them. Now, these pilgrims went on a religious mission to worship God, and they had no political objectives. They did not bring weapons back. They did not bring any money back. The Egyptians could have searched them. They themselves said the Egyptians can search us if they want. This is a political gimmick. This is a blackmail, an attempt to blackmail the people of Gaza in order to succumb to the pressure imposed on them by the Israelis and by the quartet.
Hipashkova, you're carrying water for the Israelis. I'm quoting Azam Tamimi in a different way. Don't you think it's high time for the EU to play more of a genuine role in the area?
First of all, it's European Union who is far the biggest donator and who gave the most money in a recent Paris conference. European Union is doing everything to support Palestinians. European Union is as well calling on Arab peoples and nations of the region to be more active and take part in the solution of the problem.
But the EU monitors in the crossing point.
But my clear reading is that really it's very much up to Palestinians. No one now denies Palestinians the statehood. Palestinians, they have to change the position and not to use the methods from first Intifada, but to come to point to consume the statehood and so to be a real partner of European Union. We suffer. I speak Arabic. I studied Arabic in Cairo. I was many times in Sinai, and I would love to see the solution. The problem is that really with the Gaza representation, we do not have partner in the game right now.
But Hibashkova, since you were voicing the concerns of the Israelis, you have the Palestinians on the other hand saying, we also have the right to move freely. We can't just keep us there locked in a big jail called Gaza, and then you say we have to care more about the Israelis rather than the fate of thousands of Palestinians cramped in Gaza. No one more than us in Europe, who recently, just 2 weeks ago, got rid of 9 countries' borders, enlargement of Schengen, gave to another 120 million people freedom to move. I was born behind Iron Curtain, and I know what it means, borders. But you have to have partners in the game. If the leadership and if the governance, good governance in Gaza follows the currents which is needed to follow with all countries around, no one else and more than European Union is ready to help and support. Exactly, Rafah crossing border lies on the shoulders of European Union. We are responsible and we want to take our responsibility. But what we want to have is responsible partner who recognizes the partners, who recognize the very existence of the State of Israel, who recognize the role of Egypt to play, and of course, who is suitable modern partner who supports the policy of European Union in the region. Hibashkova will definitely talk in detail about those concerns, about also the deals and the crossings, but time for a short break. When we come back, we will discuss the issue of the crossings. The Palestinians ask for more freedom of movement and the Israelis voice security concerns. Stay with us.